sounds and tunes across the country as Britain's TV programmes broadcast the devastating news of massive pit closures.
I believe most people in this country will see the priorities as being a strategy for growth, an opportunity to put people back into work, and a capacity to save capital expenditure on the infrastructure.
Well, he will have a lot of convincing to do of the nation, of the Select Committee, of Parliament, and above all of his own backbenchers. What we have seen today is just the opening skirmish in what will be a hard-pounding battle over the next 3 months when the government has to come up with an energy strategy which it conspicuously fails to have at the moment, and central to that strategy must be a clear place and future for British coal in the scheme of things.
Terrible. Well, without them, what's got family without them? And it's them what's going to suffer, isn't it? It's the jobs, it's the livelihood, isn't it? I mean, they're not going to go into the job at 50 years old, are they?
Well, they're going to shut that. You might as well shut village.
I think the kind of protest that's been demonstrated not by miners but by the mass of the British people shows that they're not only indignant but outraged that they can see this kind of policy being pushed forward by a government that is clearly out of tune with common feeling in Britain.
As miners from throughout the region converge in London for today's mass rally against the government's pit closure plans, hundreds of other workers from around the region have joined in action in support of them.
Thousands of miners and their supporters are marching through London in a mass protest as Parliament prepares to debate the government's pit closure plans.
It's a gimmick, and the gimmick is to try and wait until the steam has gone out of the situation, just to calm.
I mean, everybody's always against us. This time, I just can't believe it.
We've had women who've got sons that are not actually connected with pits, and they're just as worried about their children's future, so it's across the board, it's not just for the miners, it's for the country.
Demonstrators have been pouring into the capital on hundreds of coaches and specially chartered trains.
Thousands of people from our region have descended on London this morning to take part in today's huge march and rally against pit closures. Miners whose jobs are threatened are hoping the massive public support for their cause will force a complete reversal of government plans.
Among the pits closing is Sharlston near Wakefield, where 750 are employed. Miners there now have to decide whether to fight the decision.
Just heard about it. I think we ought to have another strike.
We can't hold about it now, can we? Strike action will shut them out as I want.
I want a job. I want my kids to have a job. That's why I took last strike out.
There's no point in it now, I think, because industry's just gone out on its feet.
Comments from MPs, clergymen, newscasters, the general public, and from miners themselves.
You and I can share the silence, finding comfort together, the way all friends do. And after fights and words of violence, we'll make up with each other
Tuesday, the 13th of October, 1992, and as Britain's miners and their families awake with a bated breath to hear an announcement from British Coal on the future of their jobs, their worst fears were confirmed as British Coal today announced the biggest loss of employees in one industry that this country has ever seen. Here at Sharlston Colliery in the Selby coalfield, 750 men are directly employed by British Coal. Sharlston has been under review for some time, but whilst under this review has maintained profits. Sharlston is in the black, as are many other pits in the Selby Group, South Yorkshire Group, the North East Group, the Nottingham Group, the Midland and Wales Group, in fact, in every single mining area. Sharlston is a village historically dominated by coal. The pit head looming above rows of terraced houses, symbolic of its hold over the community. Every house was owned by the coal board, but even before today's announcement, Sharlston had changed. The corner shop on Crossley Street is boarded up. The doctor's surgery has moved. The post office shut down. Even Sharlston's only pub has closed. As industry has shrunk, British Coal has sold many of its houses, with many of Sharlston's miners leaving, taking early retirement. Most of those who work at Sharlston now live outside the community, having to commute long distances every day to and from the pit. Sharlston is a pit village no longer. And now, along with Sharlston's community spirit, along go those of neighbouring villages like Snydale and Streethouse. However, still remaining is, at the centre of the community, the miners' welfare. It is the destruction of the community, not for only Sharlston, but hundreds of mining communities throughout the area, which is disturbing. Having to come to terms with life without coal. For generations of children from mining backgrounds, the pit, for better or worse, presented a future for today's children in Sharlston and many other communities across the coalfield. Now, the future lies anywhere but in the village they call home.
What do you think is going to happen in the 3 months? Do you think that the environment of the pit remains stagnant because you're having an inquiry? The men are being given their redundancies now. Developments of new faces has not taken place. Coal is not being cut. Gas is accumulating. Water is accumulating. Men are being put on the dole now. It's not going to wait 3 months.
And in that changed economic environment, We have to look at what is in the interest of this country and shape our policies accordingly.
As public outrage increases at the government's insensitive political decisions, everyone that I have spoken to has told me that it's a sin. As the surrounding towns and villages come to terms with what has happened, the reality is that for the British mine worker, the lights have finally gone out. A few comments from people wishing to express their concern. Indeed it is. The Bishop of Sheffield, the Reverend David Long, has called for almost a national public uprising and says that public outrage at what has been done can change a government's mind. Indeed it is. President of the Board of Trade, Michael Heseltine, has said the decisions were painful but essential to secure the industry's future. It's the hardest and toughest decision I have ever had to make. The Union of Democratic Mine Workers says it feels betrayed by British Coal and the government after it stood up for union democracy during the strike. Indeed it is. Indeed. Indeed, British Coal Executive Director Malcolm Edwards said, "We are talking about some 90,000 job losses in the deepest recession since the 1930s. He attacked British Coal's decision to rely on gas rather than coal-fired stations, which are more costly to run. You are looking at a very small number of mines remaining." British Coal was the cheapest deep coal in the world. The closure plans were revenge on miners who clashed with Lady Thatcher. County UDM President Neil Greatorex called for a national strike and said, "What is happening is not just sad, it's criminal, and it's a sin." Grimethorpe is celebrating its 99th year of production this year and produces some of the cheapest coal in Britain, but there will be no celebrating a magical 100th. Instead, 959 men have been sacked. Miners' leader Arthur Scargill condemned the closures as the most savage and brutal act of vandalism of modern times by a government devoid of compassion. In 1918, 1,803 men worked at Sharlston, a producing between 8 and 10,000 tons a week. In 1930 the output had risen to 6,000 tons a day, with upwards of 3,500 men being employed. Today 750 men are employed at Sharlston. Tomorrow that figure becomes nil. As for the community, this can only break up and diminish. For this, we say thank you very much, British Coal and the Tory government.
In my mind, I never again will go down underground. At the age of 16 years, all he quarrels with his peers, who vowed they'd never see another one. In the dark recess of the mines, where you age before your time, and the cold dust lies heavy on your lungs. It's a working man I am, and I've been down underground, and I swear to God, if I ever see the sun, or for any length of time, I can hold it in my mind. I never again will go down underground. At the age of 64, oh, he'll greet you at the door, and he'll gently lead you by the arm through the dark recess of the mind. Oh, he'll take you back in time, and he'll tell you of the hardships that were ahead. It's a working man I am, and I've been down underground, and I swear to God, if I ever see the sun, or for any length of time, I can hold it in my mind. I never again will go down underground. It's a working man I am, and I've been down underground, and I swear to God, if I ever see the sun, or for any length of time, I can hold it in my mind. I never again will go down
As the gates close shut and the last train prepares to finally depart the colliery, many tears will follow. Here is where the heartache begins. the men at Sharlston came the last shift, and here we see the benefits of their work. Going, and finally gone. Gone forever. Whatever the memories Sharlston ever had locked up, no new ones will develop. For 127 years this pit has supported everybody connected with it. The men who gave their lives, gone long, long ago, and now the new generation. For Sharlston, Colliery and the surrounding villages, this is a very, very sad day. Coming up is a guided tour of the pit itself.
All day.
Funny how a lonely day can make a person sane. What good is my life? Funny how a breaking heart can make me start to say, what good is my life? Funny how I often seem to think I'll find another dream in my life, till I look around and see this great big world is part of me and my that I was born to be. This is me. This is me. This is my life, and I don't give a damn for lost emotions. I've such a lot of love I've got to give. Let me live. Let me live. Sometime when I feel afraid, I think of what a mess I've made of my life. Crying over my mistakes forgetting all the breaks I've had in my life. I was put on earth to be a part of this great world as me, and my life. Guess I'll just add up the score and count the things I'm grateful for in my life. This is my life. Today, tomorrow, love will come and find me. But that's the way that I was born to be. This is me. This is me. This is my life, and I don't give a damn for lost emotions. I've such a lot of love I've got to give. Let me live. Let me live. This is my life. This is my life. This is my Those were the days, my friend, we thought they'd never end. We'd sing and dance forever and a day. We'd live the life we choose, we'd fight and never lose, for we were young and sure to have our way. Da 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 da. Just tonight I stood before the tavern. Nothing seemed the way it used to be. In the glass I saw a strange reflection. Was that lonely woman really me? Those were the days, my friend, we thought they'd never end. We'd sing and dance forever and a day. We'd live the life we choose, we'd fight and never lose. Those were the days, oh yes, those were the days. Da 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 da. Through the door there came familiar laughter. I saw your face and heard you call my name. Oh, my friend, we're older, but no wiser. For in our hearts the dreams are still the same. Those were the days, my friend, we thought they'd never end. We'd sing and dance forever and a day. We'd live the life we choose, we'd fight and never lose. Those were the days, oh yes, those were the days. Da 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 da. Those were the days, my friend, we thought they'd never end. Sing and dance forever and a day. We live the life we choose, we fight and never lose.
when you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of a storm, there's a golden sky and the sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, for your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk
These mist-covered mountains are a home now for me, but my home is the lowlands, and always will be. Someday you'll return to your valleys and your farms, and you'll no longer burn to be brothers in arms. Through these fields of destruction, baptisms of fire. I've witnessed your suffering as the battle reached high, and though it hurt me so bad in the fear and alarm, sun's gone to hell, and the moon's riding high. Let me bid you farewell. Every man has to die, but it's written in the stars. In every line in your palm, we're fools to make war on our brothers in arms.
Now some 9 months since this film was first made, and throughout those 9 months Sharlston was given the full review ordered by the High Court. But despite no U-turns for the abolishment of gas-fired powered stations, there was not a big enough market for coal sales. Coal extracted from Sharlston pit couldn't be sold, and so it was stockpiled, a costly and expensive move. On the 9th of July 1993, Sharlston pit closed. A mass march was organised, led by the Sharlston Colliery Band and the NUM branch banner, with many of Sharlston's miners reduced to tears. Today is the end of an era, the end of 128 years of coal mining. Sharlston has died.
You're everything, everything I wish I could be. Oh, night, I can fly higher than an eagle. You are the wind in my way.
And now to the brass band and the march outside Sharlston Church.
I will be considering whether it is sensible to mothball some of the 21 pits which were due to close. I will explore once again the opportunities for the private sector in the production of coal.
He never at any one stage showed the slightest hint of compassion for the people whose jobs he is taking away, or the communities whose economic heart he's been taking away.